When I told them I'd found a diet that would make me outlive them all, they laughed in my face. Nobody is laughing now, although some of them did taste a bit funny. I thought the eyelash in my eye was causing an unusual amount of pain. Imagine my horror when I watched it burrow back in. "Release half the hostages and we'll get you the money," the negotiator said. He soon realized he should have been more specific with his wording, "half the hostages," as he stared at a pile of legs shortly after. A man walked into the bathroom to find his abnormally still wife sitting in a bathtub filled with a mysterious green liquid. Frustrated yet again about having to call the plumbing company to find the source of the problem, he remembered how difficult it is being colorblind at times. "For the last time, I checked and there is nothing under your bed or in the closet," cackled the monster as he mockingly puppeteered the jaw of my poor dead father. I've always been pretty paranoid of many things, so I'm glad I went through the steps to get my concealed carry license. And luckily I remembered to aim for the head when I saw the zombie at the Halloween party. Being able to see with my eyelids closed was an unexpected consequence of the surgery. I thought it was cool, until I went to bed that night and saw the shadowy figures walking around me. Out of the corner of my eye, I once again saw my gym buddy flirting with the receptionist. The image faded with the bar's increasing pressure against my throat until I felt that uniquely soft crunch. We spent years thinking the blue whale was the largest species on the planet. Until today, when one washed up on the beach of South Africa, clearly bitten in half. "Honey, I wish you'd talk to me," he mocked, holding her severed tongue in front of her. "How do you kill 100 people with 2 bullets? 2 loud bangs followed on the intercom, and we all screamed as the plane began to plummet. I caught my 12-year-old daughter writing a suicide note. She signed it, Mommy. Gravity is a mere illusion. It can be easily ignored if you use your brain enough. Wow, kids are really gullible these days, I thought to myself, watching them lining up at the window on the 9th floor. After the psychic told him he would die of a heart attack, Mike picked up biking and would do 5-mile rides into town every weekend. But when a car suddenly swerved, coming right at him, an old man slumped over the steering wheel, he realized with final clarity that it wasn't his heart attack she meant. My ex just called and asked if she can sleep at my place because a stalker has been coming to her house at night. So nice of her to save me the gas money. I noticed a splinter just under the skin of my right thumb, so I began to pull at it with some tweezers. This was an hour ago, and I have now peeled away the skin from my forearm, revealing rough and splintery tree bark beneath. My mother said that when I die, I go to the white shiny place called heaven. I wish she had told me about the padded walls and straitjackets too. "The news said you only kill blondes, please let me go." He pulled the hair bleach kit out of his work bag and said, "I can't let you go. I have to make you perfect." We all breathed a sigh of relief when 2012 came and the world didn't end. What we've only come to appreciate later is that the Mayans never said it was going to end all at once. As my child's head finally started to crown after 30 minutes of pushing, I was filled with wonder. That wonder turned to horror when only the head came out. "I'm sorry, my partner here has had a bit too much to drink tonight," my date said to the bouncer as he helped me up. I felt a tear fall down my cheek as the stranger took me farther away from the bar where my friends were oblivious to my disappearance. The psychopath forced me to lay inside the coffin. I thought I would be buried alive. To my surprise, he left me on the ground, but as the sun started shining brighter, I realized that he had chosen a metal coffin for a reason. The gravekeeper instructed the new guy to tie bells around the corpse's ankle to tell them apart from the living. The new guy nodded, trying his hardest to ignore the ringing sounds the gravekeeper made as he walked. Yesterday, I figured out how my curse worked. Apparently, only people in danger can hear the stories that I tell. Captain's Log, Day 75. The sea is an odd color today, as if God himself spilled ink from his mighty quill beneath its surface. Captain's Log, Day 79. The eyes peering from the depths, have convinced me that this is no work of God. It's hard being a cam girl, especially when you find out. My wife has been in a coma for over a year now, and not a day goes by when I'm not sitting beside her hospital bed. I'm honestly terrified that she's gonna wake up and tell someone what I did to put her there. "I've got your nose," I said playfully. As I sewed the last piece of her face onto mine, I knew that I would finally be the pretty sister. I can hear 1 year into the future. But today, the noise stopped. After being lost at sea for so long, he finally killed his wife and began to eat her. But he saw something that sickened him. Land. There's a well on my grandparents' farm that if you throw a dirty coin in, the next day it's on the edge of the well, perfectly shiny and clean. My little brother must have crawled in last night, because there's a pile of clean clothes hanging from a stack of shiny white bones there this morning. Today marks 12 years of sobriety for me. As I perched over my next victim, knife in hand, I realized this filled the void much better than the alcohol ever did. My daughter had her mother's eyes. As she popped one into her mouth and began happily chewing, I suppressed a scream and prayed to God that she wouldn't find my hiding place. My kid pulled a prank by putting a mirror under his bed and asking me to look under for a monster. The joke's on him, as I can't see myself in the mirror. The surgeon smiled, as he said that my face was now beautiful and symmetrical. He failed to mention, however, that the line of symmetry was horizontal. An old woman cursed me with the inability to count. You have a weird habit of running up the stairs after turning off the lights. Do you honestly think I'd wait for a silly light? When I finally entered rehab for my anorexia, my mother hugged me and whispered in my ear, "But you could have been so beautiful." It's so awesome being able to talk to my mom again. I must be the luckiest daughter in the world to have a dad who is both a taxidermist and a ventriloquist. I visited Nathan on his deathbed at his request, despite having not seen him since bullying him at school 30 years ago. I assumed he wanted me to apologize before he died, but he just smiled, shook my hand, and told me how infectious the disease killing him was. The man strengthened his grip on the enemy soldier's neck as his resistance grew weaker. The wife, losing consciousness and gasping for breath, continued to pray hopelessly for her husband to wake up from his nightmare. My father really loved using his fancy Fitbit watch and wanted to be buried with it. Days after the funeral, I logged into his account to end service and saw a spike of activity in the night he was buried. "Don't panic, this is your brain. I don't have much time. It can't decipher scrambled words. Get help. It's already inside of you." Never mind, you're fine. When we finally found food after starving for several days, it only seemed right to let my son have the first bite. But when he touched the cheese, all I could do was watch in horror as a metal bar slammed down and shattered his neck. I watched in horror from my hiding place as the aliens slaughtered my people. Someday I will find this Earth place that they come from and destroy them all. Boyfriend betrayed me. He had sex with this girl Jessica, so now I'm giving him the cold shoulder. Tomorrow I'll give him her cold elbow, then her cold hand, etc. I hum quietly as I rock my 1-week-old, kissing her forehead softly. The doctors are wrong. I just know she'll take her first breath soon. I pulled out the strings dangling from my foot. Turns out they were veins. You'll feel it in no time, the dealer laughed as smoke filled Tormund's lungs. Tormund tried tearing his lips from the car's tailpipe, but the glue was too strong. My sister came in my room last night and warned me not to go in the basement with my father tomorrow. I screamed in horror because my sister's been missing for 3 years now. I could barely hide my excitement when the doctor told me my child had cancer. This would definitely spice up my mommy blog, My dad was angry when I showed him my test results. I'm having a daughter and a sister. Gasps filled the air as I began walking down the aisle with my father. He died last year, but I've been planning this for too long for it to be ruined now. The doctors said that since going blind, my brain might invent audio hallucinations. I was expecting ringing or music, not this faint breathing. I came home to my dog, wife, and kids happily greeting me at the door, dinner fresh on the table. I reopened my eyes to see the debris of space station slowly fading away as I floated deeper into the darkness of space. I felt an overwhelming sense of pride as I saw my 6-year-old daughter walk through those doors on her first day of school. As I gripped the detonator, I couldn't believe how easy it was to sneak in so much C4 into the school. You know, scarecrows are supposed to scare birds away, but mine seemed to attract vultures. One of the first things I did after moving in was to check out the basement. Great, there's nothing spooky down here, I thought as I climbed back up the stairs to find the door wasn't there anymore. The monster stared back at me and licked the blood of my loved ones off of its fingers. The mirror in my bathroom was always the most flattering, I thought, as the sound of approaching sirens cut through the night. I killed the last undead bastard I saw on the street and then ran into a nearby alleyway for shelter. Of course, as soon as the drugs wore off, I realized the zombie apocalypse had not come after all, and my wrench was still drenched in blood.